My brother framed me for assault to steal my wife. 8 years later, his victim confessed. Amanda's voicemail was 20 seconds long. Henry paid me to lie about you. I have proof. Please call me. 8 years after losing everything, those words should have meant vindication. Instead, I threw up. In 2015, my brother Henry destroyed my life with surgical precision. Got a woman to claim I'd assaulted her. Showed my wife Jenny fake threatening texts from my number. Had the whole family assembled when I walked into the ambush. My father slapped me across the face. You're a rapist. Jenny took our daughters, Alice, 4, and Sarah, 2, and never looked back. My parents disowned me within hours. By the next week, I'd lost my job, my home, my entire existence. Henry had always been obsessed with Jenny. His ex-wife Kate warned me after their divorce. He married me trying to forget Jenny. It didn't work. But I never thought he'd go this far. I spent 8 years as a ghost. Minimum wage jobs under the table. Studio apartment. Drinking myself unconscious most nights. My daughters grew up calling another man Dad. Then Amanda called. Henry gave me $5,000 in fake screenshots. Said you'd hurt his wife and deserved payback. I was young, stupid, needed money. I'm in therapy now. I can't live with this anymore. I made her repeat it while recording. Got it notarized. Got the bank records showing Henry's payment the day before her accusation. Went to Henry's house first. His new wife answered. Your husband destroyed my life, I said, playing the recording. Her face went white. He told me you were a predator. That's why you're banned from family events. He wanted my wife. This was how he tried to get her. She started crying. Oh my God. Jenny needs to know. Jenny had remarried 3 years ago. When I showed up, she almost called police until she heard Amanda's confession. She collapsed in her doorway. 8 years. I kept your daughters from you for 8 years. They don't even know me. They think Joseph is their father. They don't know you exist. My parents aged 20 years in 20 seconds when I showed them the evidence. What have we done? My father kept repeating. You believed Henry over me. You all did. Henry was arrested yesterday. Charged with conspiracy, fraud, defamation. His wife kicked him out, filing for divorce, saying she can't trust someone who'd destroy his own brother. The family WhatsApp that expelled me 8 years ago is now exploding with condemnations of Henry. The same cousins who called me a monster are calling him one now. My old boss offered my job back with 8 years of back pay as compensation, as if money could buy back time. Jenny brought my daughters to see me today. They were polite strangers. Why did you make Mommy cry? Sarah asked. Are you Mommy's friend? Alice added. They don't remember me. I'm nobody to them. Girls, this is your biological father, Jenny said quietly. They looked confused. Joseph is our dad, Alice said firmly. Yes, but can we go home? Sarah interrupted. Dad's taking us to soccer. Dad, another man, because their real father was erased by a lie. Henry's lawyer called wanting to make a deal. Said Henry would pay damages, publicly apologize, explain everything. Explain what? That he wanted my wife so he destroyed me? He's prepared to offer $2 million. Can he give me back 8 years? Can he make my daughters remember me? Tonight, going through old boxes, I found something that changed everything. A journal Jenny kept during our marriage. She'd left it behind in the chaos. I'd never read it. Felt wrong to invade her privacy even after she left. But tonight I opened it. Entry from 2 weeks before Amanda's accusation. Had coffee with Henry today. He said strange things about Daniel not deserving me. Made me uncomfortable. He tried to kiss me. I slapped him. Told him never to contact me again. The next entry. Henry won't stop texting. Says if I don't leave Daniel, he'll make me. I'm scared. The final entry. The day before Amanda's accusation. Henry said something horrible is about to happen to Daniel. That I should be ready to leave him. I'm going to the police tomorrow. She never made it to the police. Amanda's accusation came first. Jenny knew. She suspected Henry, but when Amanda came forward with evidence, she doubted herself. Believed the lie over her own instincts. I called her immediately. You knew it was Henry. Silence. You wrote about his threats. You knew, and you still believed Amanda. I was confused. The evidence seemed so real. You chose to believe I was a monster rather than trust what you already knew. Daniel, please. You could have prevented 8 years of hell with one word. One single word of doubt. The line went dead. My phone's buzzing. Jenny, my parents, the family. But there's also a text from an unknown number. Amanda lied about lying. I have video proof. Henry's innocent. You're not. A friend. I stare at my phone screen where the anonymous text glows in the darkness of my apartment. The words burn into my eyes. Amanda lied about lying. I have video proof. Henry's innocent. You're not. My hands shake so badly I drop the phone and it clatters across the floor. My mind spirals into complete chaos about what's real anymore. I crawl across the carpet to pick it up, my fingers numb and clumsy. The screen is still lit up with that message. A friend. What friend? Who would do this? I scroll up to see if there's anything else, any other texts I missed, but there's nothing. Just that one message sitting there like a bomb. I try to call the number, but it goes straight to a recording saying it's disconnected. I throw the phone across the room and it hits the wall with a crack. Then I'm on my knees, breathing too fast, my chest tight. 8 years. 8 years of being called a monster. 8 years of losing everything. And now someone says it was all true? That Amanda's confession was the lie, not the accusation? I grab Jenny's journal from where I left it on the coffee table. My hands are still shaking as I flip through the pages. Had coffee with Henry today. He said strange things about Daniel not deserving me. Made me uncomfortable. He tried to kiss me. I slapped him. The words are right there in her handwriting. Henry won't stop texting. Says if I don't leave Daniel, he'll make me. I'm scared. That's real. I saw her write these things. But the text message keeps flashing through my mind. Video proof. What if there's actually a video? What if I did something 8 years ago that I don't remember? I was drinking so much back then, before everything fell apart. What if there's something I blocked out? I pace back and forth in my studio apartment, wearing a path in the cheap carpet. The walls feel like they're closing in. I pick up the journal again and read the final entry. Henry said something horrible is about to happen to Daniel, that I should be ready to leave him. I'm going to the police tomorrow. She was going to the police. She knew Henry was dangerous. But then Amanda came forward with her accusation, and Jenny never made it to the police. She chose to believe the evidence instead of her own instincts. And now someone is saying that evidence was real after all. I grab my phone from where it landed near the wall. The screen is cracked, but it still works. I pull up Amanda's number from the notarized confession recording. My finger hovers over the call button. It's 3 in the morning, but I don't care. I need to know if someone approached her. I need to know if this is real or if someone is messing with me. I press call and listen to it ring. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. On the 5th ring, Amanda answers. Her voice is groggy and confused. I ask her directly if someone approached her to recant her confession. There's complete silence on the other end for 10 seconds. Then she whispers that she needs to call me back and hangs up abruptly. I stare at my phone. Why would she hang up? Why wouldn't she just say no, unless someone did approach her? Unless this anonymous text isn't just someone messing with me. I sit on my couch and wait. The minutes crawl by. I watch the clock on my phone. 3:15, 3:30, 3:45. Finally, at 5:30, my phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. I answer, and it's Amanda. She sounds scared. She tells me a man contacted her 3 days ago offering $20,000 to say she made up the confession. She refused and blocked him, but he kept creating new numbers to contact her. He knows where she lives. He knows where she works. She's terrified. I ask her if she recorded any of the calls. She says no, she was too scared. But she saved the text messages from the different numbers. They all say the same thing. Take back the confession and get paid. Keep quiet and stay safe. I tell her to send me screenshots of everything. Then I tell her I'm recording this call. She agrees. I ask her to repeat everything she just told me. She does, her voice shaking. The man who contacted her. The $20,000. The multiple phone numbers. The threats about knowing where she lives. When she's done, I thank her and tell her to go to the police. She says she's scared, but she'll try. I hang up and immediately check my recording app. It's all there. Amanda's voice explaining about the man trying to pay her to recant. I save the file and make 3 backup copies. Then I get dressed. It's 6 in the morning, but I don't care. I need to take this to Detective Cooper right now. I drive across town to the police station. The sun is just coming up, turning the sky pink and orange. I park in the visitor lot and walk inside. The officer at the front desk looks surprised to see anyone this early. I tell him I need to see Detective Cooper about the Henry Holt case. He makes a call and tells me to wait. 20 minutes later, Cooper comes out looking tired. He's holding a coffee cup and his tie is loose. I follow him back to his office. He sits down behind his desk and asks what's so urgent. I pull out my phone and play both recordings. First Amanda's original confession where she admits Henry paid her to lie. Then the new recording from this morning where she explains about the man trying to pay her to recant. Cooper's expression grows darker as he listens. When the recordings finish, he leans back in his chair. He explains this sounds like witness tampering, which is a separate serious crime. It could be connected to Henry or someone working on his behalf. He asks if I have the anonymous text. I show him my phone. He takes pictures of the message and the disconnected number. Then he tells me he'll investigate this, but it could take weeks. He warns me not to contact the number or respond to any messages. I should let him handle it. I leave his office feeling like I'm drowning. After finally having proof of my innocence, someone is trying to destroy it. Someone is trying to make me question everything again. I get in my car, but I don't start it. I just sit there in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel. My phone buzzes with a text from Jenny. "Are you okay? I saw you called at 3 a.m. I don't answer. I can't deal with her right now. Instead, I start the car and drive. I don't know where I'm going until I pull up in front of my parents' house. I haven't called first. I just need to tell someone about this nightmare before I lose my mind completely. My father opens the door looking older and more broken than when I showed him Amanda's original confession 3 weeks ago. He's wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. I can see he's been drinking even though it's barely noon. The house smells like whiskey and stale air. He lets me in without saying anything. My mother is sitting on the couch in the living room, staring at the TV. She doesn't look up when I walk in. I sit down in the armchair across from them. Then I pull out my phone and show them the anonymous text. I explain about the man trying to pay Amanda to recant. I watch their faces cycle through confusion, horror, and something that looks like desperate hope. My mother's eyes get wide. She leans forward. She actually says maybe this means Henry was telling the truth. Maybe we didn't abandon an innocent son after all. I feel physically sick. Part of her wants me to be guilty so she doesn't have to live with what she did. My father tells her to shut up. He apologizes to me. But the damage is done. I've seen that my own mother would prefer I was actually a monster rather than face her guilt for believing Henry's lies. I stand up and walk to the door. My father follows me. He tries to say something, but I cut him off. I tell him I came here thinking they might care that someone is trying to destroy my life again. But I was wrong. I leave their house feeling more alone than I did during the 8 years when they wouldn't speak to me at all. I drive back to my apartment. My phone rings when I'm halfway there. It's Jenny, her voice tight with panic. Joseph just got a message from an unknown number with a video file attached. The message claims the video shows me actually assaulting Amanda in 2015. Joseph is demanding to watch it before he'll let me have any contact with the girls ever. I call Jenny back right away. My hands shake so bad I almost drop the phone again. She answers on the first ring, and I can hear her breathing hard like she's been crying. I tell her about the man trying to pay Amanda to take back her confession. I explain about the detective looking into witness tampering. I say someone is trying to destroy the proof of my innocence, just like Henry destroyed my life 8 years ago. Jenny goes quiet for a long time. Then she says, Joseph has been wondering if we all moved too fast believing Amanda. She says this message about a video is making Joseph worried about letting someone dangerous near the girls. Her voice sounds wrong, like she's already half convinced I might actually be guilty. I feel sick listening to her. After everything we learned, after Amanda's confession and the bank records and Jenny's own journal entries about Henry threatening me, Joseph still doubts, and Jenny is letting him doubt. I hang up without saying goodbye. I sit in my car in the dark parking lot, and the truth hits me so hard I can't breathe. Even though I got proof I'm innocent, I'm about to lose my daughters all over again. This time because of a video that probably doesn't even exist. The person sending these messages is using the exact same trick Henry used. They're creating doubt with promised evidence that makes people believe the worst about me. And it's working. Joseph is already preparing to cut me off. Jenny is already wavering. My parents wanted me to be guilty so they wouldn't have to feel bad. Now Joseph wants me to be guilty so he doesn't have to share the girls. I drive home and pour myself a drink. Then another. Then I just sit on my couch, staring at my phone. At 11:47 p.m., it rings. Detective Cooper. He says they traced the anonymous number to a burner phone someone bought with cash at a drugstore 3 weeks ago. No security cameras that worked. But the man bothering Amanda matches someone a witness saw meeting with Henry's lawyer at a coffee shop 4 days ago. The detective explains this could mean Henry's legal team is setting up witness scaring on purpose. If they can prove it, Henry could get years added to his sentence. I thank him and hang up. Then I forward everything to Jenny and Joseph. The detective's official statement, the information about the burner phone, the connection to Henry's lawyer. I write a message saying the anonymous texts are witness tampering connected to Henry's defense. I hit send and wait. An hour passes. Finally, Jenny responds. She says Joseph still wants to see the supposed video before making any choices about me seeing the girls. I want to throw my phone across the room. I want to scream at the unfairness of having to prove I'm innocent twice. Instead, I just stare at the message until the words blur together. The next morning, I meet with a lawyer Detective Cooper told me about. Her office is small and smells like old coffee. She listens to everything and takes notes on a yellow pad. Then she explains I could sue whoever is behind the anonymous messages. She uses words like defamation and emotional distress, but she says we need to figure out who they are first. That could take months. I leave her office feeling worse than when I arrived. She sends a letter to the anonymous number that same day. It says, "Stop contacting me and my family or face legal action." Within an hour, my phone buzzes with a new message. The video will be released publicly in 48 hours unless Daniel Holt drops all charges against Henry and signs a statement saying Amanda's confession was forced. I stare at the message. Then I forward it to Detective Cooper and my lawyer. Part of me feels almost relieved because now they've crossed into obvious crime. The detective calls me back fast. He says this is felony blackmail. They're working with the FBI to trace the digital footprint. He explains that threatening to release revenge porn across state lines means federal crimes. Henry's lawyer calls my lawyer directly later that day. My lawyer puts it on speaker so I can hear. Henry's lawyer claims he had no knowledge of any witness tampering or blackmail. He says his client wants to help fully with the investigation. My lawyer doesn't believe him for a second. After the call ends, she tells me this is probably Henry's team trying to distance themselves now that they're facing federal charges on top of everything else. I spend the next 48 hours in complete hell. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I check my phone every few minutes to see if some fake video gets released that will destroy my life all over again. Jenny texts me updates. Joseph is pacing their house. He's looking up sex offender lists online. He's clearly getting ready to believe whatever evidence shows up. I watch the hours count down. 36 hours left, 24 hours left, 12 hours left. I sit on my couch with my phone in my hand, waiting for my world to end again. The deadline passes. Nothing happens. No video appears. My phone stays quiet. Then at 9 p.m., Detective Cooper calls. They found the person behind the anonymous number. It's a private investigator my parents hired without Henry's lawyer knowing about it. The PI got arrested for blackmail, witness tampering, and fraud. He's already trying to make a deal by giving up who hired him. I have to ask the detective to repeat it because I can't believe what I'm hearing. My own parents. The same people who cried about abandoning me 3 weeks ago. They paid someone $15,000 to prove I was guilty after all. They hired someone to scare Amanda and threatened to release a fake video. They chose Henry again, even after seeing proof of what he did, because accepting his guilt means accepting their own. Detective Cooper calls me back the next morning and asks me to come to the station because they got the private investigator to talk. I drive there with my hands shaking on the wheel, and when I walk into his office, he has papers spread across his desk and a look on his face that makes my stomach drop. The PI's statement is 12 pages long, and Cooper walks me through it point by point. Jean and Moira, my parents, hired him 6 days after Henry's arrest. They paid him $15,000 in cash to discredit Amanda's confession and create reasonable doubt about Henry's guilt. The PI was supposed to manufacture evidence, intimidate Amanda into recanting, and make it look like I had somehow forced her original confession. Cooper shows me bank records proving my parents withdrew the money in 3 separate transactions to avoid reporting requirements. They couldn't accept that their golden child Henry had destroyed his brother's life over jealousy, so they decided to prove I was guilty after all. I have to sit down in the chair across from Cooper's desk because my legs won't hold me anymore. My own parents, who cried and apologized just weeks ago about abandoning me, were simultaneously paying someone to prove I deserved it. They chose Henry again, even after seeing Amanda's notarized confession, even after seeing the bank records of his payment to her, even after watching 8 years of my destroyed life laid out in front of them. Cooper keeps talking, but I can barely hear him over the ringing in my ears. Accepting Henry's guilt means accepting their own guilt for believing him, for disowning me, for 8 years of silence while I lived like a ghost. So they tried to make it not their fault by making me guilty again. Cooper slides a document across the desk toward me. My parents are being charged as accessories to witness tampering and extortion. They could face up to 5 years in prison depending on their cooperation and the judge's decision. He's explaining something about sentencing guidelines and plea deals, but I'm not listening anymore. I should feel something hearing this news, but there's just emptiness where family loyalty should exist, just a vast nothing where my parents used to be in my mind. I thank Cooper and leave his office, walking past other detectives who probably know my whole story by now, and I get in my car and sit there for 20 minutes staring at nothing. My phone rings, and it's Jenny, and when I answer, she's already crying so hard I can barely understand her words. She and Joseph were almost fooled by my parents' scheme, she says. They got the anonymous text with the supposed video evidence, and Joseph started researching, started doubting, started preparing to cut me off from the girls again. She's horrified at how close they came to believing I was dangerous, based on manufactured lies from my own parents. I let her cry for a minute, and then I tell her the truth I've been holding back. I don't forgive her for being willing to doubt me based on an anonymous text after everything we learned. The journal she wrote proved she knew Henry was dangerous, proved she suspected him, and she still chose to believe Amanda's accusation 8 years ago. Now she was ready to believe another lie just as easily. Joseph's suspicion proves my daughters will never be safe around me in their eyes, that I'll always be one anonymous message away from losing them again. Jenny tries to interrupt, but I keep talking. Every time someone offers proof I'm innocent, she weighs it against the possibility I'm a monster, and the scale tips too easily toward monster. I can't build a relationship with Alice and Sarah knowing their mother and stepfather are always half convinced I'm dangerous. She's sobbing harder now, saying she's sorry, saying she knows she failed me, but sorry doesn't give me back 8 years, and it doesn't make my daughters remember me. I hang up while she's still talking because I can't do this anymore. 3 days later, I meet with my lawyer in her small office that smells like old coffee and paper. I ask her about pursuing civil action against my parents for their role in the witness tampering scheme. She leans back in her chair and explains the reality in simple terms. Suing them would likely yield nothing because they'll lose everything paying criminal defense lawyers. Their retirement savings, their house, everything will go toward keeping them out of prison or minimizing their sentences. I could include them in a larger lawsuit against Henry and his estate if I want symbolic justice, she says. She slides a legal pad across the desk with numbers written on it, showing me the math of how much I might recover versus how much it would cost in legal fees and time. The symbolic justice would cost me more than it's worth in practical terms. But she says the choice is mine, that sometimes people need to pursue justice even when it's not financially smart, just to prove a point or find closure. I tell her I need time to think about it, and she nods, makes a note in my file, and says to call her when I decide. Henry's lawyer reaches out again 2 days after that, this time with a new plea deal offer that his assistant reads to my lawyer over the phone while I listen on speaker. Now that his parents have been arrested, Henry will plead guilty to all original charges plus conspiracy to tamper with witnesses. He'll accept a 10-year prison sentence instead of fighting for less time. He'll establish a $3 million trust fund for Alice and Sarah's education and future needs. In exchange, I agree not to sue his estate or testify at his parents' trial. My lawyer mutes the phone and asks me what I think. $3 million would actually change my daughters' lives, even if I never have a real relationship with them. They could go to any college, start their lives without debt, have opportunities I never could have given them during those 8 years of minimum wage jobs. But accepting feels like agreeing that money makes up for 8 stolen years and my parents' betrayal. It feels like letting everyone buy their way out of consequences. My lawyer unmutes and tells Henry's lawyer we need time to consider the offer. After she hangs up, she explains that I should think carefully because $3 million is a serious amount of money and Henry's going to prison for 10 years either way. The question is whether I want the money for my daughters or whether I want to maintain the moral high ground. She doesn't say which choice she thinks I should make. I tell her I need time to think about it. The number keeps running through my head. $3 million. Alice could study anything she wants. Sarah could travel, could have experiences, could build a life without the financial stress that crushed me. But every time I imagine accepting it, I see my parents' faces when they apologized, knowing now they were lying, knowing they were paying someone to destroy me again while pretending to feel guilty. I see Jenny's journal entries about Henry's threats, see her choosing to doubt herself when Amanda accused me. Taking the money feels like saying all of that is fine as long as the check clears. But refusing the money doesn't hurt anyone except my daughters, who had no part in any of this and deserve better than being collateral damage in my need for justice. My lawyer tells me to take a week and really think it through, to maybe talk to someone objective about it. I leave her office more confused than when I arrived. Jenny calls me 5 days later, her voice tight and worried, saying Alice and Sarah's school counselor contacted her. Both girls have been acting out since learning about me. Alice got into 2 fights at the school in the past week, one of them bad enough that the other girl needed the nurse. Sarah's having panic attacks during class, crying in the bathroom, unable to focus on her work. The counselor wants to suggest family therapy to help them deal with having a biological father they don't remember, someone who was erased from their lives and suddenly reappeared with this horrible story attached. But Joseph is pushing back hard against the idea. He sees therapy as threatening his role as their dad, as opening a door he wants to keep closed. Jenny's caught between wanting to help the girls and not wanting to upset Joseph and she's asking me what I think she should do. I tell her the girl's mental health matters more than Joseph's comfort, that they're clearly struggling to process something huge and complicated. She agrees, but says she needs Joseph on board or it won't work. She asks if I'd be willing to meet with a family therapist alone first, just me, to talk about what kind of relationship might be possible with the girls given their ages and attachment to Joseph. It's the first useful suggestion anyone has made, even though I know the therapist will probably recommend minimal contact to avoid disrupting their stability. I agree because at least it's something. At least it's an attempt to help Alice and Sarah instead of just protecting the adults' feelings. The family therapist's office is in a building downtown with plants in the waiting room and soft music playing. Her name is Dr. Warren, and she's younger than I expected, maybe 40, with glasses and a calm way of speaking that makes me feel slightly less anxious. She asks me to tell her the entire story from the beginning, and I do, spreading 8 years of hell across her office while she takes notes on a tablet. It takes the whole first session just to get through the basics. She schedules a second session for 3 days later, and during that one, she asks me detailed questions about my relationship with Alice and Sarah before the accusation, about Jenny's journal entries, about my parents' betrayal, about everything. When I finish, she sets down her tablet and tells me something I didn't expect. The girls deserve to know the truth about what happened regardless of whether it's comfortable for Joseph. She says this directly, not softening it or hedging. Children can handle difficult truths better than adults think, she explains. Alice's fighting might be her way of dealing with the fact that the adults in her life lied to her about something basic. Sarah's anxiety might come from sensing that something important is being hidden or minimized. Dr. Warren says kids are smart, and they know when adults are being dishonest or evasive, and that knowing the truth, even painful truth, is usually less scary than imagining what the truth might be. She wants to meet with Jenny and Joseph next, then with the girls, and then start building a plan for how I can have a relationship with them that's honest and healthy. I leave her office feeling something I haven't felt in weeks, something that might be hope. Dr. Warren schedules a third session 2 days later, and this time she brings a detailed plan typed on her tablet. She explains I should write letters to Alice and Sarah explaining who I am and what happened, keeping the language simple and age-appropriate. After they read the letters and have time to process, we can move to supervised video calls if they want that. Eventually, if everyone feels comfortable, we could try in-person meetings in neutral locations like parks or restaurants. She makes it very clear this isn't about me taking back a father role from Joseph. He's been their dad for years, and that won't change. This is about the girls having the right to know their own history and decide for themselves what kind of relationship they want with me. I agree to everything and leave her office with a notebook she gave me for drafting the letters. Back at my apartment, I sit at my kitchen table staring at blank pages for 2 hours before I write a single word. How do you explain 8 years of injustice to kids who are 12 and 10? How do you tell them their uncle destroyed your life without making them hate him? How do you admit you were too broken to fight for them without sounding like you abandoned them on purpose? I write and delete and rewrite for 3 solid days. My trash can fills with crumpled pages. I go through an entire pen. Finally, I end up with something simple and honest. Requested Reads is on Spotify now. Check out link in the description or comments. I tell them I loved them from the moment they were born. I explain that someone lied about me doing something terrible, and everyone believed the lie. I was accused of hurting someone, and I didn't do it. But the lie was very convincing. I lost my job and my home, and my family believed I was a bad person. I tell them I understand if they're confused or angry or scared. I promise I'm not trying to take them away from Joseph, because he's been a great dad to them. I just want them to know the truth about what happened, and maybe get to know them if they're okay with that. I read it 50 times, checking for anything that sounds like I'm making excuses, or blaming Jenny, or trying to make them feel sorry for me. When I'm finally satisfied it's as good as I can make it, I print 2 copies on nice paper and put them in separate envelopes with their names written carefully on the front. I text Jenny asking if she'll deliver the letters, and she agrees immediately. She comes to my apartment that evening, and I hand her the envelopes. She holds them like they're fragile, and asks if I want to know what's in them. I shake my head, because if she reads them first, it feels like she's screening my words to my own daughters. She nods and leaves. That night, I can't sleep. I keep imagining Alice and Sarah opening the envelopes and reading my words. Will they rip them up? Will they cry? Will they understand? Jenny calls me the next night around 8. She sounds tired but also kind of amazed. Alice read her letter 3 times, according to Jenny. She asked a bunch of questions about what really happened and why everyone believed the lie. Then she asked if she could write back to me. Sarah's reaction was different and harder. She seemed confused more than anything. She wanted to know why I didn't try harder to see them, if I was really innocent. Jenny tried to explain that I was scared and ashamed and didn't know how to fight back, but Sarah just kept asking why I didn't at least try. I tell Jenny I don't have a good answer for that, because the truth is, I was too destroyed to function, and that sounds like abandonment no matter how I explain it. Jenny says she'll keep talking to Sarah, and maybe she'll come around eventually. A week passes with no response from either girl. I check my mailbox every day like I'm waiting for lottery results. Then on day 8, there's a letter with Alice's handwriting on the envelope. My hands shake opening it. Her letter is written on lined paper in purple ink. She says she's angry I let her believe a lie for so long. But she's also angry at Uncle Henry for causing this whole mess. And she's angry at her grandparents for not believing me. She writes that she doesn't really know how to feel about having a biological dad she doesn't remember. But she wants to know what I'm actually like as a person beyond this horrible story. She asks what kind of music I listen to and what my job is, and if I have any pets. I read her letter 5 times, and then I sit down immediately to write back. I tell her about my current job doing data entry at a small company. I explain I'm going back to the school part-time to finish my degree. I list the bands I like and admit I'm probably too old to understand most music she listens to. I tell her I don't have pets, but I always wanted a dog. I ask her about school, and what subjects she likes, and what she wants to be when she grows up. I keep it normal and friendly, like we're 2 people getting to know each other instead of father and daughter dealing with trauma. She writes back 3 days later with answers to my questions, and more questions for me. We start this back and forth thing that feels fragile like glass, but also real. She tells me about her best friend, and the boy she thinks is cute, and how much she hates math. I tell her about a funny thing that happened at work, and recommend a book series I think she'd like. It's not deep or emotional, just 2 strangers carefully learning about each other. Sarah takes longer to come around. 2 weeks after Alice's first letter, I get one from Sarah. It's only 2 sentences written in pencil on notebook paper. She asks if I'm going to try to take them away from Joseph. That's it. Just that one scared question. I write back the same day, promising I would never do that. I explain that Joseph has been their dad in all the ways that matter, like taking care of them and being there for them and loving them. I tell her I'm just hoping to be someone they can know and maybe trust over time, but I'm not trying to replace Joseph or change their family. I don't hear back from Sarah for another 3 weeks. Meanwhile, things are moving forward with Henry's case. His lawyer calls my lawyer with news that the trial date is set for 6 months from now. They're making one more plea offer before we go to trial. 8 years in prison instead of the original 10 years. Plus the same $3 million trust fund for Alice and Sarah. The catch is, I have to agree to a statement saying I believe Henry acted out of mental illness rather than evil intent. My lawyer explains this is their strategy to avoid the harshest possible sentence. If they can paint Henry as sick instead of deliberately cruel, the judge might go easier on him. I tell my lawyer no within 5 seconds of hearing the offer. I won't give Henry the cover story of mental illness to explain away what he did. He wasn't sick. He was calculating and cruel and jealous. He planned everything carefully, from paying Amanda to creating fake evidence to timing the family ambush. That's not mental illness. That's evil. My lawyer says she expected that answer, and she's already prepared a victim impact statement for the sentencing hearing. She's going to detail every single thing I lost because of Henry's lies. My marriage, my daughter's entire childhoods, my career, my relationship with my family, 8 years of my life spent in poverty and isolation. She's demanding maximum penalties and no mercy. A week later, my parents' lawyer contacts my lawyer asking if I'll write a letter supporting lighter sentences for Jean and Moira. The lawyer claims they were manipulated by grief over Henry's situation and didn't fully understand what they were doing when they hired that private investigator. I laugh when my lawyer tells me this. I tell her to inform their lawyer that my parents made an active choice to try to prove me guilty, even after seeing clear evidence of my innocence. They chose Henry over me twice, once 8 years ago, and again just weeks ago. They can face the consequences of that choice. My parents end up taking a plea deal to avoid trial. 2 years of probation, $50,000 in fines, and required family therapy if I ever agree to participate. The judge makes a statement during their sentencing that stays with me. She says they're getting this light sentence only because of their ages and lack of criminal history, not because their actions were forgivable or understandable. She says what they did to their own son was morally reprehensible, even if it wasn't as legally serious as Henry's crimes. I don't go to their sentencing hearing. I stay home and write another letter to Sarah. I keep the letter to Sarah simple. Tell her about a book I just finished reading. Ask what she's been up to at the school. Sign it just Daniel, because I don't know what else to call myself to her. 3 months go by like this. Letters back and forth. Alice writes more than Sarah, asking questions about my life now, what I do for work, if I have any hobbies. Sarah's letters are shorter, more careful, like she's testing whether I'm safe to trust. Jenny emails me one Tuesday morning saying they want to try a video call. Joseph agreed to it if he can be there too. My hands shake when I read the message. I respond yes, before I can overthink it. The call is scheduled for Saturday at 2. I spend the whole week anxious, cleaning my apartment even though they won't see most of it, practicing what to say in front of the bathroom mirror like an idiot. Saturday comes, and I set up my laptop on the kitchen table, angle it so the background looks decent, wait with my heart pounding. The call connects, and suddenly, there they are on my screen. Alice and Sarah sitting on a couch with Jenny between them. Joseph stands behind them, arms crossed. I start crying immediately, which I didn't plan to do. Alice and Sarah look so much bigger than the toddlers I remember. Alice has Jenny's eyes and my nose. Sarah has my dark hair but Jenny's smile. They're 12 and 10 now. They've lived entire lives I know nothing about. Sarah shifts uncomfortably when she sees me crying. Alice leans forward, studying my face. Nobody says anything for what feels like forever. Jenny finally breaks the silence, tells the girls to say hello. They mumble hi in unison, looking at each other instead of the camera. I wipe my face, apologize for crying, tell them I'm just happy to see them. More silence. Joseph clears his throat, reminds everyone this is just to see how it goes. Alice asks me directly if I was in prison. The question catches me off guard. I tell her no, I wasn't in prison, just lost everything and lived alone for 8 years. She processes this, then says that sounds worse than prison actually. Sarah asks what I did all day if I wasn't working. I explain the minimum wage jobs, the studio apartment, the years of just trying to survive. They listen, without interrupting. Joseph keeps checking his watch. Jenny looks like she might cry. The call lasts 20 minutes. We don't talk about Henry or the accusations or anything heavy, just basic questions about my life now, what I like to do, if I have any pets. When we hang up, I sit at my kitchen table for an hour staring at nothing. 2 weeks later, we have another call. This one is slightly less awkward. Joseph doesn't hover as much. Alice asks about my favorite movies. Sarah asks if I've read the Ranger's Apprentice series. I haven't, but I tell her I'll check it out. She lights up a little when I say that. Over the next few months, the video calls become routine. Every 2 weeks, Saturday at 2, the girls start to relax. Sarah discovers we both love the same book series and starts recommending titles to me. I read them, and we talk about the characters like regular people, instead of constantly circling back to the trauma. Alice starts telling me about school, her friends, the drama with her math teacher. Joseph gradually moves from standing behind the couch to sitting in a chair nearby to sometimes leaving the room entirely. Jenny usually stays, but she's stopped looking like she's about to have a panic attack every time I talk. During one call in early spring, Alice tells me she's been researching false accusations for a school project. She's angry, she says, at how easily people believed lies without proof. She asks me directly if I'm angry at her mom. I pause, choose my words carefully, tell her I'm working on forgiveness, but it's complicated. Her mom had reasons to doubt me, but also reasons to believe me, and she chose wrong. Alice nods like she understands nuance better than most adults. Sarah asks if Joseph is still going to be their dad. I promise her that Joseph will always be their dad, that I'm not trying to replace him or change anything about their family. Joseph hears this from the other room, and I see something shift in his posture. A week after that call, Jenny emails asking to meet in person without Joseph or the girls. Just the two of us to talk about everything that happened. I agree, and we pick a coffee shop halfway between our places. I arrive first, order a black coffee, sit at a corner table watching the door. Jenny walks in looking exhausted and older than I remember. She's lost weight, has new lines around her eyes. She orders tea and sits across from me, wrapping her hands around the cup like she's cold. She tells me she's been in therapy twice a week, trying to process her guilt about not trusting her instincts when she knew Henry was dangerous. I listen, without interrupting. She talks for 10 minutes straight, explaining how she's spent 8 years wondering if she destroyed an innocent man's life, how she's barely slept since Amanda's confession, how she doesn't know how to live with what she did. When she's done, I pull out my phone and show her the photo I took of her journal entry, the one where she wrote about going to the police the day before Amanda's accusation. I ask her directly why she didn't follow through. She stares at the photo, her face crumbling, admits she was scared of causing family drama over what might have been nothing. When Amanda came forward with evidence the next day, she convinced herself she'd misread Henry's intentions, because the alternative was too horrible to face. I ask her how she lived with that doubt for 8 years. She says she didn't live with it. She buried it under anger at me, under building a new life with Joseph, under pretending she'd made the right choice. She says she knows I can't forgive her, and she's not asking me to. Just wants me to understand she's been in her own prison of guilt and fear. I tell her the truth, that her guilt doesn't absolve her choices, but I appreciate her honesty, that maybe someday we can have a functional relationship for the girls' sake. But right now, I need space from her beyond coordinating calls with Alice and Sarah. She nods, wipes her eyes, thanks me for meeting with her. We finish our drinks in silence and leave separately. Dr. Warren calls me the next week with a suggestion. Try an in-person meeting with the girls in a neutral location, somewhere public and comfortable like a park. Both Joseph and Jenny would be there for the girls' comfort, but it would be a chance for real face-to-face contact. I agree, even though the idea terrifies me. We schedule it for a Saturday morning 3 weeks out. The night before, I barely sleep. The morning of, I arrive at the park 30 minutes early and pace near the playground, watching families with their kids, trying to calm my racing heart. I see Jenny's car pull into the parking lot at exactly 10. Alice and Sarah get out holding Jenny's hands. Joseph follows behind them. They all look nervous. I stand near a bench, unsure whether to wave or stay still or walk toward them. Alice sees me first and pulls away from Jenny, walking up to me with purpose. She stops 3 feet away and just stares at my face for a long moment. Finally says, "I look like the pictures Mom saved." We sit on a park bench, all 5 of us squeezed together awkwardly. Talk about nothing important. School projects and friend drama and a movie they just watched. Sarah tells me about her soccer team. Alice complains about her history teacher. Joseph occasionally adds comments. Jenny stays mostly quiet. It's beautifully, painfully normal. We're at the park for almost 2 hours. The girls show me the playground equipment they used to play on when they were little. Sarah demonstrates her cartwheel technique. Alice points out a tree she tried to climb once and fell out of. As we're getting ready to leave, Sarah asks suddenly if I'm going to be at her birthday party next month. Everyone freezes. Joseph looks uncomfortable. Jenny looks panicked. We haven't discussed that level of integration yet. I kneel down so I'm at Sarah's eye level and tell her gently that I'd love to come if her parents think it's okay, and we'll figure out what works for everyone. She seems satisfied with that answer. Joseph pulls me aside as they're walking back to the car, tells me he needs to think about the birthday party, but he appreciates how I've handled everything with the girls. Says he was threatened by me at first, but seeing them with me today made him realize they have room in their hearts for both of us. He catches my arm as we're walking back to the parking lot and asks if we can talk alone for a minute. Jenny takes the girls to her car while Joseph and I stand by the playground equipment, both of us looking anywhere but at each other. He tells me straight out that he's been scared of me since the day Jenny explained who I was, scared that I'd try to take the girls away or make them choose between us. But watching them with me today, seeing Sarah's face when she asked about her birthday, he realized something. Kids don't have a limited amount of love to give. They can love him and still have room for me. He says he's going to work on being less defensive about sharing them, because it's not fair to make this harder than it already is. I thank him for saying that, and I mean it completely. I tell him he's been their father for years when I couldn't be, and I respect everything he's done for Alice and Sarah. They're good kids because of him and Jenny, not despite them. We agree right there to have monthly check-ins about how the girls are handling everything, what level of contact feels right, what's working and what's not. It's the first conversation about my daughters that's felt like we're on the same team instead of fighting over territory. We shake hands before we leave, and it's awkward, but real. The trial starts 6 weeks later. I have to sit in the witness box and look at Henry for the first time since Amanda's confession recording changed everything. The prosecutor walks me through the whole timeline. The accusation in 2015, losing my job within a week, my wife taking our daughters, 8 years of minimum wage work and studio apartments, and drinking myself to sleep. Henry sits at the defense table looking smaller than I remember, and I feel nothing but tired sadness that his obsession with Jenny cost both of us everything that actually mattered. When the prosecutor asks me to describe the impact on my relationship with my daughters, my voice cracks. I tell the jury that Alice and Sarah don't remember me, that they call another man dad, that I missed their entire childhoods because my brother wanted my wife. Henry's defense lawyer tries to paint him as mentally ill, obsessed to the point he couldn't control himself. They bring in a psychiatrist who talks about obsessive disorders and delusional thinking, but the prosecution tears that apart with evidence. They show the jury the fake screenshots Henry created, professionally done with editing software, the timeline of his payment to Amanda, carefully timed for maximum impact. The way he coordinated the family ambush, making sure everyone would be there when I walked in. The prosecutor argues this wasn't mental illness, it was calculated destruction. The jury takes less than 4 hours to convict him on every single count. Conspiracy, fraud, defamation, witness tampering for what his parents tried to do. I watch the verdict come in and feel nothing, just empty. Sentencing happens 2 weeks after the conviction. The judge asks if I want to make a victim impact statement. I stand up and look directly at Henry for the first time during the whole trial. I tell him he didn't just take 8 years from me. He took my daughter's childhoods, all those moments I can never get back. He took Jenny's peace of mind, made her doubt herself for believing his lies. He took my parents' integrity, turned them into people who could abandon their own son. And he took his own future, threw away his whole life because he couldn't handle that Jenny chose me. The judge listens to everything and sentences him to 12 years in prison, more than the plea deal his lawyer kept offering. The judge says the calculated nature of the crimes and the witness tampering attempt show someone who needs to be separated from society for a long time. Outside the courthouse, after everything's done, a woman approaches me. It takes me a second to recognize Kate, Henry's ex-wife. She looks older than the last time I saw her, more tired. She apologizes for not warning me more strongly about Henry's obsession with Jenny. She says after their divorce, she thought he'd moved on, found peace, and she's haunted now, wondering if she could have prevented everything by being more direct about how dangerous his fixation was. Her voice shakes when she talks, and I can see she's been carrying this guilt for months. I tell her the truth. She's not responsible for Henry's choices. Her warning after the divorce was more than most people would have done, and I didn't listen anyway because I never thought my own brother would go this far. We end up sitting on a bench outside the courthouse talking for almost an hour about Henry, how he fooled everyone with his charm and his smile, how he hid his obsessive side so well that even Kate didn't see it fully until their marriage fell apart. She tells me stories about their relationship, little moments where she saw glimpses of something wrong but talked herself out of believing it. It helps somehow to know I wasn't uniquely blind to who Henry really was. Everyone missed it. Everyone got fooled. Sarah's birthday party happens 3 weeks after the sentencing. Jenny calls to invite me, making it clear I'm just a regular guest, not some special event or big reintroduction. I show up with a present I picked based on the book series Sarah mentioned during our video calls. Fantasy novels with strong girl characters. She opens it in the middle of all her other presents, and her whole face lights up. She asks if I've read them, and I tell her I bought the first one for myself too, so we can talk about it. For the next few hours, I'm just another adult at a kid's birthday party. I help set up the piñata. I eat too much cake. I watch Sarah and her friends play games in the backyard. Joseph is there being dad, and I'm there being something else, and somehow it works. It feels like a small miracle that I can exist in my daughter's lives without everything falling apart. Alice pulls me aside while the other kids are playing. She tells me she's been writing an essay for school about injustice and false accusations. She's using my story as the main example. She asks if I'll read it before she submits it to her teacher. I say yes immediately. She emails it to me that night, and I read it 3 times. She writes about how easily truth can be destroyed by lies that people want to believe, how my family chose to think the worst of me instead of asking questions, how 8 years got stolen because everyone were accepted the first story they heard. Her understanding is scary for a 12-year-old. She gets things about human nature that took me decades to figure out. I email her back, telling her it's powerful and honest, and she should definitely submit it. After that, I start going to the girls' school events, concerts where Alice plays violin, soccer games where Sarah plays midfielder, parent-teacher conferences where I sit next to Jenny and Joseph, and we all pretend this is normal. Sometimes other parents ask who I am, and it's awkward explaining, but Alice has started introducing me as her dad Daniel in a way that makes it clear Joseph is also her dad. She says it naturally, like having 2 dads is just how her family works. Both relationships can exist at the same time. It's not perfect, and it's not what I lost, but it's something real and growing, and most days, that feels like enough. 6 months after Henry's sentencing, a letter shows up at my apartment with a prison return address. The handwriting on the envelope is Henry's, and I stare at it for 20 minutes before opening it. Inside, 2 pages of his scratchy writing ask if I'll visit so he can apologize in person. He says he understands if I refuse, but he needs to try. I bring the letter to my next session with Dr. Warren. She reads it carefully and asks what I want to do. I tell her I don't know if I can handle seeing him. She says I should only go if it helps me heal, not because I owe him anything. I think about it for a week. Finally, I decide to go because I need to see if there's real guilt or just self-pity. The prison is 2 hours away. I drive there on a Saturday morning, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The security process takes forever. Metal detectors, pat-downs, signing forms. They lead me to a visiting room with plastic chairs and tables bolted to the floor. Henry walks in wearing orange, and he looks terrible. Thinner than I've ever seen him. Older. His face has this gray, collapsed look like something inside him broke. He sits down across from me and starts talking immediately. His apology comes out as this rambling mess of excuses mixed with tears. He says he convinced himself Jenny would be happier with him, that I didn't deserve her, that once he started lying, he got too deep to stop. He talks for maybe 15 minutes straight. I don't interrupt. I just sit there watching him cry and make excuses and try to explain away 8 years of destruction. When he finally stops talking, I tell him I hope he finds peace someday, but I can't give him forgiveness he hasn't earned through actual change. His face crumbles. I stand up and walk out. The drive home feels different somehow. Lighter. Seeing Henry broken and pathetic in that orange jumpsuit makes me realize he's already living in his own hell. I don't need to carry hatred for him anymore. He destroyed 8 years of my life, but I'm not going to let him destroy the rest by making me bitter and angry forever. My lawyer calls 3 days later. The settlement is finalized. Henry's estate will pay $2.5 million into a trust fund for Alice and Sarah's education and future needs. Another $500,000 comes directly to me for pain and suffering. My lawyer explains the trust fund structure, how the girls can access it for college, graduate school, starting businesses. I sign the papers in her office. The money doesn't fix what was taken, but it means my daughters will have opportunities I couldn't give them, and I can rebuild my life with some actual security instead of living paycheck to paycheck. I use part of the settlement to register for classes at the community college. At 42, I'm the oldest student in most of my classes by 20 years. Kids fresh out of high school sit next to me taking notes on laptops while I write everything in a notebook. But I'm more motivated than any of them because I know exactly what I'm working toward. A degree in social work, then a career in victim advocacy, helping people who've been falsely accused navigate the nightmare I survived. My professors treat me like any other student, which I appreciate. No special consideration, no pity. Just coursework and deadlines and tests. It feels good to use my brain again for something besides survival. Jenny calls to say she and Joseph want to try having the girls stay at my new apartment 1 weekend a month. I moved into a 2-bedroom place using the settlement money. Nothing fancy, but clean and safe with space for Alice and Sarah to have their own room when they visit. The first overnight visit terrifies all of us. I pick them up Friday evening and they walk into my apartment carrying backpacks and looking nervous. We order pizza and watch movies on my laptop. Sarah keeps checking her phone to text Jenny. Alice explores the apartment like she's documenting everything. Around 10, Sarah falls asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder. I sit there frozen, afraid to move and wake her. After I carry her to bed, I go to my room and cry for 20 minutes. Having my daughter sleep in my home feels like something I never thought would happen again. The weekend goes okay. We eat too much junk food, play board games I bought specifically for their visit, take a walk to the park down the street. When I drive them home Sunday afternoon, Alice hugs me goodbye, and Sarah waves from the car. It's not perfect, but it's real. I start reaching out to old friends, people who believed in my innocence during the 8 years, but didn't know how to help. Some relationships are too damaged to repair. 3 people don't respond to my messages at all, but a few welcome me back into their lives with actual joy. My friend Tom from college invites me to a barbecue at his house. His wife remembers me from before everything happened, and she cries when she sees me. We stand in their backyard talking about the last 8 years while their kids play on a swing set. Tom says he tried to contact me twice, but I'd changed my number. I tell him I was too ashamed to reach out to anyone. He says he wishes he'd tried harder. We make plans to meet for coffee every other week, and it feels good to have a social network again, beyond just my daughters and their family. A year after Henry's sentencing, I get an email inviting me to speak at a conference about false accusations and wrongful convictions. The organizer says she read about my case in the news and thinks my story could help other survivors understand they're not alone. I almost delete the email. The idea of standing in front of strangers and talking about the worst years of my life makes me want to throw up. But I remember what Dr. Warren said about finding purpose in the pain. I accept the invitation. The conference is at a hotel downtown. I stand at a podium in front of maybe 200 people, lawyers, advocates, other survivors. I tell my story for 40 minutes. Henry's lies, Amanda's confession, the 8 years of exile, my daughters not knowing me. My voice shakes the whole time. Afterward, 3 people approach me. A woman whose brother was falsely accused. A man who spent 6 years fighting charges that were eventually dropped. A lawyer who represents victims of false allegations. They all say my story helped them understand their own situations better. The lawyer gives me her card and says, if I ever want to volunteer with her organization, she'd love to have me. Driving home, I realize this is the first time the nightmare has felt like it might have some actual purpose beyond just destroying me. Alice calls me 2 weeks before her middle school graduation. She asks if I'll come as her guest, not just someone in the audience. She wants me to sit with Jenny and Joseph in the family section. She wants to introduce me to her teachers and friends as her dad. I tell her I'd be honored, but I don't want to step on Joseph's toes. She says Joseph already knows, and he's fine with it. I call Joseph to confirm. He tells me he's proud to share the title of dad, because Alice is lucky to have 2 fathers who love her. His voice sounds genuine, not forced. I thank him for being the father I couldn't be for 8 years. He says we're both just doing our best for the girls. Graduation day comes. I put on the one nice shirt I own and drive to the middle school. Jenny and Joseph save me a seat between them in the auditorium. We sit there together watching Alice walk across the stage in her cap and gown to receive her diploma. The principal reads her name, Alice Holt. She looks out into the audience and waves, and I wave back. Sitting there, I think about everything I missed. First days of school, lost teeth, birthday parties, soccer games, piano recitals, childhood milestones I can never get back. But I also think about everything I still get to be part of. High school, college, her wedding someday, grandchildren, her whole future. And I choose to focus on what's possible instead of what's lost. 3 weeks after Alice's graduation, Sarah stays at my apartment for a weekend visit. On Saturday night, she sits cross-legged on my couch with her notebook open and tells me she's glad she knows the truth now, even though it makes her angry sometimes at people she loves. She's writing a story about family and truth for school and wants to interview me about how I survived 8 years of everyone believing lies. I feel my chest tighten because talking about those years still hurts, but I tell her I'll answer anything she wants to know. She pulls out a list of questions she prepared and asks me to start at the beginning, when everyone first turned against me. I describe the studio apartment where I lived alone, the minimum wage jobs that paid cash, the nights I drank myself unconscious, trying to forget I had daughters growing up without me. Sarah writes everything down in careful handwriting, stopping me sometimes to ask follow-up questions about the depression and the times I wanted to give up completely. I tell her about the tiny, stubborn hope that kept me going, the idea that maybe someday the truth would matter, even though most days I didn't believe it myself. She asks if I ever thought about trying harder to see her and Alice, and I have to be honest that I was too broken and ashamed to fight, which probably sounds like abandonment no matter how I explain it. When we finish, she thanks me and says this is the most important thing she's ever written. 2 weeks later, she calls to tell me her teacher said it was the most powerful essay in the class, and she's proud to be my daughter. I cry after we hang up, because those words mean more than any legal vindication ever could. 2 years after Amanda's voicemail changed everything, I'm living a life I never imagined during those 8 years in the wilderness. I have weekend visits with my daughters that feel natural now, not forced or awkward like strangers pretending. I'm finishing my degree in social work and building a career helping other people who've been falsely accused navigate the nightmare I survived. Henry sits in prison serving his 12-year sentence, and my parents live 2 states away after I told them I needed distance to heal. Jenny and I have coffee every few weeks to discuss Alice and Sarah, and we can actually talk without all the guilt and anger poisoning every word. The scars from those 8 years will never fully disappear, but I'm learning to see them as proof I survived instead of symbols of everything I lost. Some days that feels like enough, and some days it doesn't, and I'm okay with both being true at the same time. Well, that's another award-winning mess of a story. If you're still here, clearly you've got taste, or maybe just time to waste. Either way, subscribe and we'll call it even.